Nothing's off limits with this duo. It's father and daughter, Don and Cher. And join the club if you're a chattermouth.
Hey y'all, it's Cher and
Dawn.
And welcome back to the
Chattermouth Podcast.
Okay, so you're probably here because you read the title and you know this episode is all about toxic mother-in-law relationships. I think so many people can relate to this. I know that so many of my friends complain about having a toxic mother-in-law. So we're going to talk all about it today and share all of your stories that you all wrote in. I would like to preface this by saying that I'm very blessed. I'd like to say that my mother-in-law is not toxic. I have a very close relationship with my husband's mom. She passed away, unfortunately, but we were so close. And then my stepmom and my husband's stepmother and me are very close as well. So I'm very blessed, but I hear your stories and I'm like, oh my gosh, I want you to know, like, you guys are not alone. So many people can relate to you.
Well, I can relate to it. So I'm just going to give you one of my many stories.
Okay.
Okay. When we were first married, we always celebrated everybody's birthday as a family on my husband's side. So whoever's birthday it was, we all went out for dinner and we would all celebrate. And it was a way of keeping the family close. And I loved it. And my mother-in-law always loved going to restaurants. So it was an excuse to go to another restaurant.
And you still do that to this day.
I do. I did continue that
are so
tradition.
Celebratory
Yes. Well, you know, if you have something to celebrate, why not celebrate it, right? So anyway, so one year it was my birthday and I was all excited. Okay, it's my turn and we're going to go out for a restaurant and have fun at the restaurant and everyone get together. So my mother-in-law made reservations to go to this one restaurant and invited everyone in the family, my husband's two brothers and sister-in-law, and my sister-in-law was coming in from vacation that day of my birthday. So
your sister-in-law, so your
my husband's sister.
Okay,
my husband's sister, my sister-in-law. So we go to the restaurant and my husband's two brothers are there and we're sitting there and we're waiting for my mother-in-law or my father-in-law to show up. And time is going and ticking, and we're actually sitting at the table, and the waiters is like waiting, like when is everyone going to show up? And nobody's there except the two of them, and myself and my husband. And then my husband then calls my mother-in-law saying, "What's going on? Like, what's happening? Where are you? We're at the restaurant." And then they said they're on their way to the airport. My sister-in-law's plane was delayed and they're going to pick her up instead of coming to celebrate my birthday. So there we were sitting, waiting. I was all dressed up, all excited. They never showed up. Well, you know, all you have to do is have my sister-in-law take a cab to the restaurant when her plane lands. But they decided, even knowing that the plane was going to be delayed, to go there and sit at the airport and just have dinner, the two of them, while they wait for my sister-in-law to show up and not show up to the birthday. So it was really very hurtful because I was really looking forward to it, and we never had a rain check. And we still went on whoever's birthday was next to celebrate.
So you were like the black sheep type.
The black sheep. So it was really, really hurtful.
But also, like, they never even called you. You guys had to call them and be like, "Where are you?" Like, what's happening?
We were stood up.
You felt like you were stood up.
Yeah, really did, which I couldn't understand, you know? Mm-hmm. Sometimes I can't understand why people do certain things.
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry you went through that. That's sad. But I know, you know, it is interesting, though. I think mother-in-laws in general get a lot of hate for whatever reason. People, like, are so quick, though, to blame the mother-in-law. Like, you didn't mention the father-in-law there. You just said the mother-in-law.
Well, really ruled the roost in the house.
I think that's why mother-in-laws get the most of the blame, is because, like, everybody knows that, like, the moms are the true head of household.
I have a question to ask. So I want to know your honest opinion on this. Every year from my mother-in-law and my father-in-law, but she, of course, wrote out the birthday card, would always say at the end, from her name, and then she would say mother-in-law, like, oh no, she would say the whole name, Hupshire.
Right.
Instead of saying, mom, whatever, she would just say always Mom Hupshire.
Yeah.
Like, I knew it was from her. And one time I actually addressed her and I said, you don't have to do that. You're my mom too now. You don't have to say Mom Hupshire. But even after I said it, she still would always say Mom Hupshire.
I don't think that's anything bad.
I don't know. I'm curious I would like to know what other people think of that.
I don't think that's weird at all. I think you're a little bit interesting. Not everyone's like you. Like when you send Jared a birthday card, you never write like a son-in-law birthday card. You always write like, to my son. But like that's not his title. He's your son-in-law, and that's your mother-in-law. It's not your mom. So I think she's just like going by her true title. Like you always try to go like above and beyond, and like not everyone does that, and that's okay.
But I feel once they're part of the family, they should be part of the family, not excluded or have a different title. You should all be one big happy family.
But just because you're a mother-in-law doesn't mean you're not a happy family. Like I don't even call like my in-laws, I don't call them mom or dad. I call them by their names. I think it's just a different world, and they're still just as special.
I think
to me.
It's a different age group.
Right.
Because
like Jared doesn't call you mom or dad. Like he has a mom. You're his his mother-in-law.
Well, that's the new age.
Yeah.
Growing, my age, we did call our in-laws mom and dad.
Yeah,
I would call my mother mommy and daddy, but my in-laws were still mom and dad out of respect.
Just a different time, I think.
Yeah, that's a different time. That's definitely.
I wonder if a lot of other people, like, do you guys that are like call your in-laws, do you call them mom and dad, or do you call them by their name?
I think my generation called them mom and dad.
Ours doesn't. But Jared a lot of times will refer to you guys now as like Mimi and Popsy because Belle's around.
Yes.
So
yes.
I think that's so interesting,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
But I think it is hard to be a mother-in-law because I went to this like mom's group and we were all sitting and talking, and literally every single person went around the whole group and was like, my mother-in-law sucks. Like my mother-in-law is toxic. And like every single person had a mother-in-law story about like why they didn't get along with their mother-in-law. And like I was like the only one where I was like quiet because I'm like, I can't relate to this personally. But I'm like empathize with these people because so many have this story. And also, it's interesting. I think it's because, this is just my take on this, I feel kind of like moms are so, used to their sons and like they love their son and they are so used to being like their son's number one. Like the son always listens to me. He always listens to me. But now he has a new person in his life and he listens to her. And I think that there becomes some sort of competition sometimes.
I don't agree. I don't think it
so.
should be like that.
I think it is like that though.
I don't agree. I think
from
that
whoever's side it is, either the wife feels there's a competition and she puts up a wall towards you, or the mother-in-law puts up a wall towards the wife.
I try to analyze it some, and I think that it's just that you're brought up differently. Mm-hmm. And like maybe you're not used to having the house clean so much, or it's messy, and the mother-in-law thinks it should be neater, or that's just an example. But I think because you're not brought up the same way as you actually bring your kids up, and vice versa, I think that's the issue.
That's interesting. And then maybe there's some arguments over that. I don't know. Mm-hmm. Well, let's read some of these stories that I got. You guys are amazing. So many of you wrote in. I posted on Instagram being like, tell me your mother-in-law horror stories. And you guys did not disappoint.
Wow.
So let's go ahead and read some of these as well.
I'm going to let you do the reading because I forgot my glasses. So I'm just going to let you do it.
All right, so here's this one. My mother-in-law stayed with us, changed the locks, and threw everything I owned in the trash while she was dog sitting for us. And we came home, and it was a mess. That's like crazy. Way to start off the thing.
Wait, why would she do that? It doesn't make sense. What was she angry about?
But to stay at someone else's house and change the locks, that's just like overboard. See, like that's just... Wow. Okay, let's go to the next one. When I was 6 months preggo, she told me that I was too fat for the baby to be 2.1 pounds. That's really mean.
Yeah, that is. But maybe, you want to look at it her perspective. Maybe she was just like talking or just trying to be like real natural. And
Yeah,
but
no, no. But I wonder,
did
is
look-
she like a bigger woman and she just feels like she could like say those types of things? It's still hurtful. Your generation was very. I'm reading some of these and I'll get to them in soon. But your generation was very into like weight, talking about weight. I feel like.
I think a lot of generations are into weight.
Our generation is different. We don't talk like about that. That's why you see like you're going to Victoria's Secret and the like the dummy models. What are they called? Like the dummies that stand out front. A lot of them are like plus size now, like curvy.
Oh, that's true.
It's all different now. But your generation, everyone wanted to be like stick skinny.
No, like they wanted to be like Twiggy. Did I? Do you know who Twiggy is?
No.
She was a model in my day that was so skinny. She probably weighed like 90 pounds.
Yeah, I don't know because I see some of these.
Now it's all sizes that are beautiful.
So we don't
which
like
is
talk
nice.
about that.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So, my 5-month-old son had frosting put in his mouth without asking me first. So she like was with the baby probably at like a birthday party and was like, "Oh, have some icing," and puts it in his mouth.
I don't think anything's so bad about that.
No, it's not okay. First of all, when you're 5 months old, a lot of times you're not even eating food yet. You don't start till usually around 6 months. So the mom is taking, and also frosting, like usually you don't have that till like the kid's a year.
I think it's very stressful in today's day and age to be a mother-in-law because you're so afraid what you can and can't do, and you don't want to do the wrong thing, and you're so stressed out about it. In our day, this is a generation thing too, we were more lax. We weren't like that. We could give our grandkid a candy and be okay with it. Now you're reprimanded if you give a candy. Or even like, I just heard a story. I was in the store the other day and I guess I eavesdropped a little. And this woman was talking to this other woman. She says, I can't believe it. I'm not even allowed to pick up my grandchild without permission.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
That's too much. See, that is
wow.
I
my eyes bugged out when I heard
she
that.
She must have been the grandmother of the son. Like that grandma it's not her daughter that's saying no.
But that's sad. Why does it have to be like that?
It's always it's not the grandmas that are the issues, it's always the mother-in-law. It's always the son's mom.
Yeah.
I think you're right though. It is because, you come from different backgrounds and you're like, I don't like the way she does things,
Right.
And she's like, I don't like the way you do things. Like, do it my way.
Or even the food in the house. Like, it's so different. Everything has to be it's so, like you have to make sure you have all the right foods to feed the grandkids today. While in my generation, we just, just whatever you feed is good, is fine, It's just different mentality.
Oh my gosh. So I'm friends with a lot of the grandmas at my daughter's school. And because they take them to school a lot of times because the mom is working. And so I end up becoming friends with the grandmas. And so we were at the playground the other day and the grandma said to me, she was telling me a story and she was like, the other day my daughter told me she was going to give the baby. There was like, they have like a younger baby. She's like, so the grandma said, the other day my daughter told me that they're going to give the baby a cookie for the first time. I've been giving them cookies forever. I died. I was like, oh my gosh.
That's so funny.
She said she just stayed quiet.
Right. You're so afraid of being reprimanded or getting being yelled at or being looked like, you don't know what to do sometimes.
Well, this is a very sad one. My mother-in-law blamed me for killing my husband. I honored his wishes and put him on hospice. So sad. That is like heartbreaking. That is heartbreaking.
That is really hard. I mean, like,
but if you're honoring his wishes and then
but the mom didn't want to let him go yet for whatever reason. She wasn't ready.
And but to say something like that's terrible.
I think she was just, she loved her son so much and she felt that I guess it was hard because maybe they weren't married that long and the wife is making the decision.
But that's what he wanted. She's honoring his wishes. So.
Well, that's what she says, but who knows?
Yeah. No, it is. It is.
That's a hard one. That's a really hard one.
It's so hard. That's not fair for her to have to hear her, mother-in-law say that, like if he's gone, let it be, it's just so hard. Okay. This one is sent me an email the night before our wedding attacking me.
That's terrible. That's to me terrible. No one should do that to anybody, let alone your mother-in-law to be. That was awful.
Yeah.
And that's something you'll never forget.
No, the mother-in-law sent her it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
So the girl will never forget that.
Yeah. Told my mother-in-law this is oh my God, this is the worst. I can relate to this. Okay. Told my mother-in-law our top baby name, and her exact response was anything but that.
That's a hard one.
That is exactly the reason why I refused to tell anybody our daughter's name before she was born, because you do not want to hear any outside opinions, because then you're a bad guy if you don't listen to them, and then it's bad to yourself if you don't listen to your heart. That's why you do not tell anybody the baby name before the baby is born, unless you want someone to give you opinions like that.
Yeah, I guess that's why you didn't tell me Belle's name before she was born.
Well, you would have liked Belle's name.
I would have loved it. I don't know why you didn't tell me.
Well, that's why I also didn't tell you her middle name or any other name, because it's you just don't want outside opinions. You don't want to hear it. Once it's their name, they can't say anything.
Right. That's true. That's true.
That is so.
You
would have done that. I feel like I
actually did that with all my kids' names.
What?
I didn't tell anybody.
Oh, you didn't tell me that.
Yeah.
You probably were. That's so interesting.
Because I just wanted it to be from
you.
me.
Exactly. See, so why did you bother me for so long about telling you the name?
Because we tell each other everything. It was the principle.
You're the
That's
worst.
Why.
You are the worst at baby names, though, because I remember sometimes I just throw out a baby name, just a name. And you're like, ew, I hate that name. And I liked that name.
Well, you know what it is.
You're so critical.
Sometimes you had a friend in school or someone you didn't like, and then you say the name of that person, and you relate to that person. So you say, you can't name your kid that name.
Right. No, that is so true. It's so true. Okay. This is not nice. My mother-in-law wouldn't let my grandma in the room to give me pearls to wear for my wedding. She probably came to knock on the door, oh, can I go give this to my daughter, to my.
Why would anyone do that? That's just mean. That's mean.
Yeah. While wedding dress shopping and while buying my dress at the register, my mother-in-law told me to lose 50 pounds so my dress fits.
Oh, that's terrible. I don't know how anyone can do that.
So who can be so blunt like that?
Right. Well, maybe someone just doesn't have a filter. Maybe that's it. And maybe she just wants to, try to look at two sides of everything. Maybe she just wanted to say, lose some weight for this. This is but it's terrible. You
can't say that.
It's terrible. It's just terrible.
Oh my gosh. This one, my mother-in-law hated that I breastfed my oldest. She actually called the doctor and said that he was allergic to my milk.
Oh, that's
so
terrible.
She said, and then I had asked her more about this question. I said, how could she do that? How could you just be allergic? She said that she just hated that she breastfed and that she never breastfed her kids, and that's why. Isn't it so
Well, now I can
annoying?
see why a lot of mother-in-laws get bad raps, if that's what it is,
Seriously.
That's bad,
Ugh. You are entitled to do whatever you want. If you want to breastfeed. That is so rude, to tell you how to. That's like them trying to tell you how to raise your kid because that's how they raise their kids, right? That's exactly what you were saying.
Well, how would you mean how to raise?
She raised her kid, she didn't breastfeed, and her kids turned out good, so she feels she shouldn't breastfeed.
Oh, right.
That's
just stuck in your old ways sometimes. Some people are just stuck in their old ways.
Sorry to pause the podcast, but if you're loving our podcast, then you'll love our book, and we have to tell you a little about it.
Actually, we wrote this book, and it's about how we got this close and how you can too.
It's called A Bond That Lasts Forever, and basically it goes over our life's ups and downs. It shows pictures throughout our life and has adorable quotes throughout to inspire other mothers and daughters to have their own special relationship. You can pick it up on Amazon.com, at Barnes & Nobles, or wherever you get your books. Now, let's get back to the podcast. Ooh, here's a dun, dun, dun. Before our wedding, my mother-in-law had his ex reach out to my husband. So right before their wedding, she
Yeah.
called the ex-girlfriend, was like, call him.
Terrible. That's terrible.
You know, these
things that you're reading. You can never forgive your mother-in-law
after that. That's
after
terrible.
that.
Why would
That's
anyone
terrible.
do
Why would anyone do that?
Well, I guess she felt she had one last chance to stop the marriage.
Yeah, but you don't say call your ex.
No, she called his ex.
Yeah,
and
to call. That's terrible.
She didn't want it to go through.
She didn't want it to go through.
But then once they're married, can you move forward after that? Can you let go of the past and move on once you're married?
I think you should try. I think you should really try because I think it hurts everyone in the whole family. I mean, so I think you should try, and maybe she then ends up loving the daughter-in-law, like the new relationship. So I really believe you should try.
I think once you're married, also, like, it's like kind of needs to be a clean slate. And it's not for you. Like, you need to be like unselfish. You need to think of your husband. Like, your husband wants to be close with his mom, right? And like, or the grandkids like deserve to have, like, I was at a birthday party recently, and one of the kids was swimming, and the mom was watching the child, and she's like, oh, she has so much trauma from swimming because my mother-in-law tried to drown her.
Oh, it's
and
terrible.
she said that right in front of the child, and I was like, poor kid. Like, and she said that when she was 2, she like got up to get food and like, wasn't watching so well, but she wasn't purposely trying to drown her, I'm sure. Like, you don't say those things in front of the kids,
right? Yeah, that's terrible.
Yeah. Anyways, okay. We lived with my mother-in-law, and we lived with my mother-in-law, and she came to our baby shower 5 hours late and only stayed an hour.
That's very hurtful,
mean. It's just like mean. Like, what do you have that's so important going on that you just can't go?
Right. That shows a terrible character, and
Because this baby shower is for her, but it's also for your future grandchild. Like, sometimes it's just mean. Like, why? What's so important? What is so important that you can't come to this one special day?
I don't understand it. I always believe in family, and I believe that it makes everybody happy when everyone's closer. So I think the mother-in-law should be trying much harder. I think the daughter-in-law should be trying harder. I think everybody in the family should be trying harder because it just makes it a happier environment.
Yeah, for sure. Like, we don't need this drama. Speaking of drama, well, I was pregnant with my first child, visiting my mother-in-law in New York. She asked my hubby about his ex-girlfriends.
Oh,
I feel like that's just starting
so
drama.
mean.
Like, why? Just to start drama for no reason? Like,
it's like she's trying to manipulate her son to like think about the old girlfriends.
Right.
That's so mean, though.
Yeah, just rude. Okay. My mother-in-law was the only one who could, this is so mean. Oh my gosh. Okay. My mother-in-law was the only one who could donate blood to our daughter, and she waited 2 weeks.
Why in the world? It's her grandchild.
Yeah.
Too.
I guess her daughter was sick and needed blood transfusions, but they weren't a match. But the mother-in-law was a match. But she waited only 2 weeks to give the blood. She waited 2 weeks to give it.
Why? Why would anyone do that?
It's disgusting.
There must be more to that story because I can't get it.
That's terrible. That is like beyond.
Yeah.
That is beyond.
It's her grandchild.
It's your son's child. Like, what?
Yeah.
That's terrible. Okay. My mother-in-law gave our car seat to my sister-in-law and drove my child, who's 1 year old, on a highway for 3 hours on a pillow. She gave their car seat to the sister-in-law. That's like choosing favorites. It's like,
that's terrible.
On 3 hours on a highway on a pillow, I would kill you at 1 year old. That's terrible.
That's terrible. It's so terrible.
That's like comical.
That's
like,
really
what?
terrible.
Are you listening to these? You're probably just like,
I'm kind of like spacing out because I can't believe this. It's just like really bad.
Why is this? Can you guys like, what? Oh my goodness. You guys really came through on these.
Well, I could tell you one more story.
What? Oh no, what?
One year, we invited my mother-in-law to come over our house for a holiday dinner, and she lived in New York. We were in Florida, and we were going to pay for the plane. Actually, we did pay for the plane.
For her plane?
For her plane to come in and spend the holiday with us. She then calls us a couple of days before she's arriving to come in that she wasn't feeling good and she couldn't come. We find out she rerouted the plane and went to her daughter's house.
On your dime?
Yes.
On like you paid for that flight? Did
Yes.
she give you the money back?
No, of course not.
What?
No.
What?
Yeah.
She rerouted.
But you know, with everything,
And you still were close. You still like.
I always respected her. I always believed in not ever saying anything, never opening my mouth about it, always celebrating every birthday, buying gifts for her, always trying, always trying. I think I was always hoping it would change, that now it's going to be different. Now it's going to be different because I really always wanted everything really close. So I was always willing to say, okay, it's going to be different next time.
That is very brave of you. I feel like that's so nice, but that's so rude. It's so hard because like you don't want to be that person who takes your husband away from their mom. When the mom is doing such mean things, you also are the person who like sees it as an outsider's point of view. Like sometimes they don't even see it because they're grown up like that.
So I did a lot of crying. Let me tell you, during my years, I did a lot of crying, but I never stopped seeing or speaking or trying. But I'm glad I didn't really, because I think about it now. That wasn't the way to go, not to speak.
Right.
It's still your husband's mom. So you just try to do the best you can.
Right. And you also don't want your husband, once the mom is gone, to ever blame you and say, like, you're the reason I didn't have my mom in my life. Or
To
you're the
have
reason.
resentment.
Right. You don't want
That's
that
the
resentment.
worst.
Right. It's not fair. Like, that's still their mom, even when they do mean things. That's so tough, though, because you're also, like, want to protect your husband and be like, this isn't right. Like, you shouldn't be being treated this way, you know? So, but yeah, I give you a lot of credit for like staying friendly after that, my mother-in-law called my mother to tell her I got engaged before I had a chance to call her. She probably was just so excited.
I think, that one's nothing. She was probably so excited she just couldn't help and blurted it out.
I don't know. But yeah, you want that special moment with your mom, but I guess she was just so excited. I don't know. My ex-mother-in-law kept journals of each kid's spouses, things she did that we didn't like or infractions. We're all divorced now from said family, and she would keep these journals of how we interacted with kids, if we spent money on ourselves, whether she thought we had mental issues, if our houses were clean. Keep in mind, I was raising my daughter and my niece, her daughter's daughter, due to an addiction. When each couple divorced, she presented her children with the journals that pertained to their spouses. I warned my ex's current wife. Wow. She
terrible.
would keep journals. And then when they divorced, she gave the journal to the spouse and was like, you did good. It's a good thing you left her. Look at all these terrible things about her.
That's terrible.
That's like really petty. That's really petty. You're probably thinking, wow, I'm not such a bad mother-in-law.
Right.
Oh my gosh. Wow. Yeah, that's crazy. We were married 3 years before I even got pregnant. We were living with his parents at the time, and one evening, he and I were discussing moving out and beginning our house build. I went upstairs to shower. He then comes up to our room and tells me his mother told him the baby wasn't his. She told him she heard from someone that I was sleeping around. I'm like, how? I live in her house with you. He obviously knew it wasn't true. We worked together, drove to and from together, lived together. It wasn't even possible. But she told him that the rumor to whoever would listen. I never met a mother so jealous before, and it wasn't always that way. She and I were close, like mother and daughter. I mean, I moved into her home. I felt comfortable with her. I was completely shocked. As I began to rack my brain on why she would do such a thing, I realized she didn't like that I was the new woman in his life. He was doing well and helping her with bills and such, so maybe she didn't like that I was now the priority. Once we moved out, I communicated less with her, and when she would visit our home for vacation, I would purposely work more hours.
That's really sad. So she really was competing with the daughter-in-law.
Yeah.
And it's so stupid. You don't have to compete, you know?
That's sad.
That's
There's room
very
for two,
sad.
room for more. Yeah.
Yes, I agree. That's sad.
It's sad. She said she felt like they were like mother and daughter too. So she wanted to be close. And then to make up a rumor that your daughter-in-law is like sleeping around. Like that just doesn't even make you look good. Like it makes your son look
It's
bad.
terrible.
It makes her look bad. Like so rude. Yeah. I hope you
Maybe
guys,
she
like,
was. Maybe the mother-in-law was like upset they were moving out, and she just took it personally.
Maybe. Oh, so sad. Like, okay. Hi, we live in Florida, and at the time we were visiting her. Oh, okay. So, hi, we live in Florida, and at the time we were visiting our mother-in-law because she lives in New York. Now she lives in Florida too, with one of these faces. I was about 12 weeks pregnant, and we were in her apartment. She just starts talking. Oh, this is another one. Starts talking about all of his exes, if he keeps in touch with them or has seen them recently. And I'm sitting on the couch, and she's doing it right in front of me. Of course, I'm hormonal, and I start to cry. Not because I care if he did or anything, more so what she was doing. And she didn't understand why it bothered me. We were also waiting for the results of our NIPT test. Maybe not the worst story, but she is the most selfish person I've ever met. My kids could care less about her. And by the way, I'm a huge fan.
Well, of course, the kids could care less about her because the way I'm sure she's speaking about her mother-in-law, and she probably tells the kids too.
Ugh, that's yeah. It's not fair. Like, right. If you want to be, this is one big tip. If you want to be close with you, if you're a mother-in-law and you want to be close with your grandkids, you really need to first try to be closer with your daughter-in-law too.
But it does take two.
It takes two, but if you want to have a good relationship with your grandkids, she's only going to talk highly about you to those grandkids if you are nice to her. That's how I believe.
But you shouldn't have to feel that way. I think it should just come naturally. You shouldn't have to feel that she's manipulating you with the grandkids. I think that's terrible.
Yeah. But that's life. You know, that's how it goes. Anyways, these stories were literally crazy. I have one more. Let's just see. Hi. Okay. We live in Illinois and my mother-in-law lives in South Carolina. We only see her once every few years. She had ran into her house and my husband had her phone and noticed that his contact picture of him was of him and his ex-girlfriend.
Oh, that's terrible.
We had been married for over 4 years at this point. He took a picture of him and I and put that as his contact picture. She got mad because she claimed that was her favorite picture of him. We were out and about with her, and when we got back to their house, she just lost it. Our 2 girls were in the backseat of the car while she is trying to fight me, and our son was inside the house. My husband's sister and his ex-girlfriend was holding his mom back. What?
That's terrible.
She almost body slammed his sister a few times trying to get to me. Oh my gosh, what is this? Then got mad because I wouldn't come out and fight her. Sorry, she wasn't worth going to jail over. She claims I took her son away and always has resented me since the very first time I met her. We do not have a good relationship with her at all. We have seen her since all this happened, and yes, she is yet to apologize for any of this or take any accountability. Ugh.
I think that's just terrible.
I'm so sorry,
that's
girl.
just really, there's no words for that. I mean, that's just awful. She actually feels in competition with her, which is so terrible. There we go again.
Yeah.
A lot of it seems to be like that. A lot of the mother-in-laws that you read about seems to be in competition with their daughter-in-laws, but it shouldn't. That's ridiculous. It's the daughter-in-law. That's ridiculous.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Not fair.
No.
I think that also a lot of daughter-in-laws they don't want the mom to baby the son, and maybe that's why they push it away. They're like, I got the son now, but the daughter-in-laws are pushing. I don't know. There's just it sounds like very toxic energy, and so many of you, all of your points are so valid, and you have every reason to feel how you do, and I am so sorry.
But I think you still should try, like I used to try with my mother-in-law, because you still try. You want the family together. I think you should try. I think sometimes it's hard to try to make him. I understand.
I think you have I think you have to take a step back and analyze. Is this gonna cause more drama, more upsetness, more sadness for my whole family if we stay close or if we pull away? Which is going to be worse? Is she going to keep bringing me down? Am I going to have more depression, more anxiety when she's around? Is my whole family going to be affected? What your mother-in-law did to you, not showing up to your birthday, that's rude. You can forgive and move on, but then to take your the flight and reroute it to see somebody else, that's hurtful to your husband. like these things you have to see. Is the mother-in-law hurting my husband? Is she continuing to hurt me? If so, maybe I should back away, as hard as it is.
Right.
And if it's something forgivable, like maybe she said something like lose a little bit of weight as she was just talking like nonchalantly, or is she saying like, you're fat, like you need to lose 50 pounds, like really mean to you? Like what is the scenario? What is the context? And like,
I think sometimes you just, we're all human. We all make mistakes.
Yeah.
And I believe that you really should sometimes just try to have a new slate and move forward and see if it'll work.
Yeah.
And not keep bringing up past things that happened that bothered you.
Yeah. Like, especially like, don't worry about like before you were married. Before you were married, your mother-in-law didn't know like if you guys were the real deal or not. Right.
Exactly.
Like once you're married, try to have like that clean slate.
Yes.
And then like see
I think everyone could then really enjoy each other, And sometimes I think if a mother-in-law says something that's blunt and maybe not nice, I don't think they always mean it that way. I think it's also a generation gap. Like, it might not, maybe she felt close to her daughter-in-law at that moment so she could just speak her mind. I know she probably would speak her mind to her daughter. So why not with her daughter-in-law too?
Okay, so pretend you didn't get along with your mother-in-law or you didn't get along with your daughter-in-law or whatever. Like in that moment, what would your advice be to somebody else that is struggling? What would you tell them to do?
I would try to be open and try to tell them to maybe say their feelings a little bit to the mother-in-law and see how the mother-in-law reacts and say, oh my God, I didn't realize that. I'm really sorry. And maybe they will change their behavior because they want that relationship. And I think you have to forgive and forget and move forward.
Yeah, definitely. A lot of forgiveness. I think sometimes, we're all human. We're all girls here. Like you're just a girl who's a little bit older than me. You know what I mean? Like you're just an older girl. We're all women. So like, I feel like sometimes if you want to build a relationship with your mother-in-law or your daughter-in-law, it's nice to have like quality time together. Maybe like go out to dinner, just the two of you, and like talk and like work through whatever it is you have. And literally you can say to them like, listen, I feel like there's an issue here. I feel like you have resentment towards me. I know I have some resentment towards you. Let's talk about this. Let's move forward for our husbands, for our family, for your grandchildren, and let's talk through this.
It's easier said than done because a lot of people don't like criticism.
And a lot of people don't like confrontation.
And a lot of people get defensive.
Right.
So you really have to hope that everyone is open-minded and is willing to have this conversation.
Well, one of my friends had offered their mother-in-law when they weren't getting along to go to therapy, like a family therapy, because she really wanted to get along with her mother-in-law.
That's nice.
And I think that's so nice. The
so nice.
mother-in-law refused, which
that's
isn't
terrible.
Right. But the fact that she wanted to and was willing to go to that length, I think is amazing.
I think that is
character.
amazing. Yes. And I'm sure her husband sees that in her.
Right. Yeah, definitely.
Right. Sometimes it's not going to work no matter what.
Right.
And there's nothing you can do about it. But I still think you should still try to have respect for each other as much as you can, even if it's not going to work.
Right. And if it's not going to work, that's okay. Like if she's just too toxic, just like, try to maintain your composure, stay civil, and just like do what you got to do. And like the one girl said, work more hours when she's around.
Well, if you hear these stories, maybe your mother-in-law isn't that bad.
Right. Maybe she's not so bad after all.
Right.
Yeah, it's so
Look at the bright side.
Right. And for those who sent these stories, thank you. And I'm so sorry you're dealing with all of that, but you guys are so strong and brave and beautiful, and we love you guys. So thank you all so much for tuning in. If you have more horror stories with your mom this time, we want to hear some of those too. I think that'd be interesting. But anyways, thank you all so much for tuning in. We'll see you all next time.
Bye.